So I set the jack position a little bit that way, made sure they were all consistent. Consistency is huge, you know, you can imagine. Same thing with easing the keys. So that's going to help us a little bit with repetition, make sure the repetition's good across the piano. It was pretty good before, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I repeated pretty well.
Yeah, you didn't have a really hard time. And I hope I don't mess that up. No, it should be good. And I say that because, you know, all these factors, it's not always simple because everything's so interconnected. But one of the big things with repetition, I think we alluded a little bit to the fact that there's a spring. So I'm going to play this note, and I'm going to keep my finger down. I'm going to let it drop, and this is going to, it's catching here on this back check, this leather catch. That's called the back check.
Okay.
So it keeps it in check in the back. And that's a synthetic leather, by the way. They used to use buckskin, and now it's synthetic. This material, by the way, is great. It wears for a very, very long time, much better than the old materials, and it catches very well.
Awesome.
It's the same material that's on the knuckle right there.
Okay.
It's called, I believe it's Escane or Exane. I can't remember whether the S comes before the C. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to push this down, and then I'm going to slowly let up pressure on the key as if I was releasing the note, okay? You saw the hammer jump up here. That is the spring that's down here, and we can adjust the strength of that spring. So it's putting a force on my finger. It's kind of pushing the key down. Why don't you show on the end there? You can see it's kind of a butterfly spring here, right? There's two legs to it. So one is forcing the jack back under, while at the same time it's pushing up on the hammer, making an opposing force between the weight of the hammer and the key down here. So if it's really strong, you're going to feel a kick on your release.
Sure.
So that, you know, we were in a discussion about the drawbacks of having your springs too strong. That might be one too. If it releases you at a tempo that's not very controllable, that could be problematic in a lot of scalar passages.
Sure.
So you're gonna, let's see, here's my spring tool. I'll pull one of these out here. I'm just gonna get, there's a notch under there, and there's the top side of the spring. I strengthen it basically by essentially putting very delicate bends, either to spread it or to push it down, and that'll weaken it.
Oh, okay.
I want to see what this, I want to push this one a little bit to the limit. We mentioned this is a player piano, and the player system plays it from the back of the key. So I could have it set where acoustically it feels like it repeats great, but some tracks from the player don't repeat well if someone turns down the volume. It's hard for the player to keep up with that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to maximize our spring strength, and I know that's also going to help our repetition. So what I look for is I put that in a check, and then I release the key slowly. I see how fast it comes up.
Let's just get, I just want everyone to know this, because I've had him show me this. So he pushes the key down.
And I all the way, and I let it come to rest coming into check.
And then as he lifts it, there's a bump.
Very slightly.
Hammer. So
then as I release, it pushes the hammer up.
So that's not him re-lifting the key, or re-striking the key. It's
actually lifting. It's that spring is allowed then to engage.
Great. Thanks for clarifying.
So what's keeping it from engaging now is the back check. See? But as soon as I start to lift, it comes up. Now, I'm going to, for fun, let's just understand the spring a little bit. I'm going to kill this spring. Okay, I lift, nothing happens. Okay, Josh, repeat on this B flat real quick.
Okay.
If you could.
All right, I'm going to set this.
It might work just fine, but.
Okay, I'm going to cheat and do two hands because my hand's a little tired from that tripod.
It already caught, right?
Yeah, already. That sees a lot better.
Yeah, you're getting skips in there.
And let's try one hand. Maybe I'm not going fast.
It sounds like you're having to work a lot harder on the B flat.
Yeah, I'm having to work
Is it
harder.
because it's a black key? Or?
Yeah, well, it's a lot smaller
Target, huh?
Target, yeah.
Here, let's weaken a natural too.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Let's make sure it's a real experiment here. Okay, we're gonna do some science. Okay. I want to really make the point here. I should probably just disengage the spring totally. I'll do that because sometimes they'll pop out on piano.
Okay.
Okay. Now, but if they pops out, then that won't work because then the jack's gonna go all the way forward. I forgot about that. So I'm just gonna really go extreme here. Okay, so we've got B and B flat to choose from.
Okay, both bad.
Both too weak.
Too weak. Okay, and
Virtually no.
Oh. Okay, so.
That kind of reminds me of an upright piano.
See, I'm actually, because my speed isn't Marta Argerich, you know, with the Scarlet. That actually feels okay. But the piano itself, it kind of is like, hey, I'm not going to go ahead and repeat, so I naturally slow down. Because I know if I push it, that's going to happen. That's really obvious versus... So, yeah, that's working.
And essentially we're taking away the element which is wonderful on a grand piano, which is you don't have to let the key raise as high before it'll reset. We're taking that away somewhat.
Right. Maybe even a trill. See how mushy that is? That feels tacky, like it's pushing my hand back up. This one, I feel like I'm just sinking down into the key more. It's not as responsive. Yeah.
So let me set it the right way.
Okay.
And well, actually, I think it's worth it since we're taking the time to do this video. Let's set it too strong.
Okay.
Is that worth it to you? I think
try.
a lot of people would wonder. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, so all right. And when I install these parts new, they come. The springs are very, very strong.
Okay. So do you ever back them off?
Yeah, you have to when you're getting the parts set up and everything. Here, I'll kind of take things out of the way. Here you can see a little better this note, this B flat. Now I'm putting in a check, and it just wants to leap out of there. I barely let off the pressure, and it throws my finger off the key, and it's bobbling, it's bouncing. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll do the same on the B.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say anything more than that. I'm just going to let you play it and make real observations. Okay, Josh?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's about how they are when they're brand new.
Okay.
All right, B flat and B etude right here.
Okay, so we'll give ourselves. It.
Yeah, I know. Because it repeats really well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
It's really fast. Okay, well now let's see, just play the softest sustained note you can and see what happens, whether or not that's with the pedal up. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh yeah, you actually. It feels heavier.
If it was a longer duration note where you hold the key down, what does that do? Even lighter than that. Even softer.
So this is C. Oh,
it doesn't want to go
affect
into
let
check.
Up? Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So what this is doing, this is giving me a ghost note.
It doesn't really affect let off, but yeah, it's harder to get a clean let off.
Yeah. So here I can get a really nice soft tone. And I can feel that, like it's almost like I can feel the weight of the hammer in the fingertip. Whereas here, I don't know if that's actually going to hit that string. I almost have to play it louder.
What you're feeling there is that rep lever has a leather pad on the front of it here, and that hits a screw at some point to stop it from going up. Otherwise, it would bobble this hammer against the string, right? So that screw stops that lever.
Okay.
And I'll show that.
Okay, sounds
really
great.
quick.
Yeah.
And so you're feeling that spring. If this is getting way too piano deep, you just let me know, Josh. But see right here, let me get a little pointer here. Okay, this is the repetition lever right here. This leather pad hits this screw underneath. Do you see that?
Oh, right. Okay.
That's called the drop screw.
Okay.
So it starts down here. I'm pushing it up towards the note, and then it limits it. It limits the repetition lever right there, so that then only the jack is pushing the knuckle through that escapement.
Okay.
So it leaves a little bit of space, right? That's why the hammer drops. That's why we call it the drop screw. See how right here it's going to drop? Right there. Because of that gap. If we didn't stop this part, it would go doing, right?
Oh, okay.
It would just keep, the knuckle would be bouncing on this right here.
Okay.
So I'm not going to adjust that drop screw right now, but what you're feeling, when I load this spring up, it's harder to push this lever, right? So you're going to feel that spring tension right there at let off. So it's going to feel harder at the end of the stroke.
Yes.
So I think that's what you're feeling like. Does it affect let off? It makes it way harder to push through it.
It was like the key was light until you get to the bottom, and then it just stopped.
Yeah.
It stopped going. So
another interesting point, these two hammers, I strengthened the springs. The two hammers now are higher in the line than the rest.
Yeah.
They're being supported by the repetition lever instead of the jack.
Okay.
So anyway, so now let's get them in the realm of realistic. I mean, that's really cool to play on, right? It's like the Energizer Bunny watching you do the trills, and each strike had a lot more strength audibly to me.
Yeah. And this just goes back to the fact that, I mean, I think there's so many correlations that you and I have talked about, like when we were fixing my piano. Something good in one direction isn't always great in the other direction. So like for really slow, soft, sultry repertoire, it's actually kind of gross to play on an ultra light piano. It actually feels better to play on kind of a heavier piano for that. But a heavy piano feels terrible for these list etudes that we've been kind of going through tonight. So you kind of have to thread the needle of a well-balanced piano for all repertoire situations, because unless you're a multimillionaire, you're not going to switch Steinways for each piece.
So where I'm setting these now, to give you an idea, this is the A. This is what the A looks like as it rebounds up. Its speed is relatively slow and smooth and controlled. That would feel really nice and, you know, Sunday drive-ish. Now here's the B flat that I set as I let it up. It springs right up there.
Gotcha.
But it's not so much that it's kicking against my finger at the key, and it's not throwing the hammer so much, you know. And it's a delicate balance. As a technician, it's very hard to set this spring right where it's strong enough where it repeats well, but then down with these heavier hammers, especially in here, probably when you get a bobbling hammer, if you've ever had that for serious pianists, it's been in this area.
Okay.
That's where it's more of a problem. When you get into the lighter hammers, it's not so big a deal. You can set those lighter springs stronger. So like for your, was that Scarlatti?
Yeah, Scarlatti.
Yeah, up here, boy, you could set those strong and you probably wouldn't have a problem with bobbling hammer as much.
Sure.
But so this is what these look like where I'm setting them. I'm definitely making a difference. It's a lot stronger than what it was before compared to that one.
Sure.
Subtle.
Sure.
It's subtle, but you feel it a lot.
So what is your plan now? Are you going to go through the
I'm going to
piano?
go through and I'm going to strengthen all that need to be strengthened and make them consistent.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.